Okay, welcome to Bitrix Live. I'm Damien Edwards, Commercial Manager of Bitrix24 Partners Interface. With me I've got Andy Naylor, our Support Manager.
Hi guys, so throughout this session it's going to be about an hour long, and you can post your questions in the window on YouTube and we can answer them for you. You can tweet us at Interface, or you can email us at live@intraface.com.
Okay, we had a couple of questions in previously, one about how to invite extranet users into the system. So I think there's one main way to invite users into the system. Go to employees and we can invite users in from the employees section. So we can invite employees in. We can invite users in as an employee, or we can invite users in as extranet users in this way. So just simply inviting them in using their email address. I think with the self-hosted, there's ways to create there certainly is ways to create extranet users in the control panel. So you don't need to invite them, but you can actually create them. You can also create kind of self-registration as well with the self-hosted. So if you want to create a system where a user goes to a landing page and registers themselves, you could have a kind of automated approval process, or they could be, or a manual approval process. They could register themselves, and then you just need to invite them into a work group. So I think an extranet user wouldn't be able to access the system unless they're in a work group. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you'd need to invite them into the system and then add them to an extranet work group. So work groups are created as intranet or extranet work groups. You couldn't invite an extranet user into an intranet or standard work group. So you need to do those two things, and then they'll receive an automated response, invite response. On the cloud, they're kind of standard generated invite emails. On the self-hosted, you can customize those invite emails to put your own content into the email.
So just to follow on from that, just with regards to, somebody did ask about the extranet users. So the extranet users actually don't class as a user license on your system. So you can invite as many as you want, really. So you could technically invite 1,000 extranet users into your system, even if you've got a 12 user license or a 50 user license. Then you can add as many as you like. But they do only access, obviously, the features that are within the extranet work group, and not obviously the features such as the CRM or anything. So there is a restriction and a limited features available for the extranet users.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we had an email in before about how I want to send emails when a deal is at a particular stage. Also, is it possible to send SMS, text messages? So you certainly can do that, and it's something we show quite a bit, I think. So we just run through it quickly. If I go into the CRM so the question was sending an email when a deal is at a particular stage. So you can do automation on deals, quotes, leads, invoices. Go into a deal. You can see that deals have different stages. You can name these stages, and in fact in deals you can have different pipelines. So the point of different pipelines, we can see the pipelines we have here. Different pipelines can have different stages. So some can have a small number, some can have a large number. The descriptions on those stages can be different. In addition to that, you can run separate processes on separate pipelines. So an example we always give where pipelines might be useful for a particular industry would be a property business or a estate agency, where they have two distinct areas of the business, one for property sales and one for property rentals. Your process for those two different stages are probably quite different. in terms of the documents you need to collect, sort of approvals you need to get along the way, they'll be different. So you'd have a pipeline for each stage. If we go into a deal, you can see the stages across the top of this deal. And we just go out of there for a minute and into more in settings. Where's our settings? Settings at the top. Open that settings page in a separate tab. And you need administrator access to access this area, but if I go into automation and into business processes, so these are the areas where you can create processes. You've probably seen recently that Bitrix has launched automation. Automation is available within leads and deals. Automation gives you I'll show you in a second, gives you a visual tool to allow you to create different actions at different stages of a deal. So you could do this in automation, or you could do it in business processes section. I think probably the business processes section has kind of a little bit more functionality, but it's probably a little bit more tricky to set up. If you wanted to create lots of conditions and things, so things happen when certain fields have been completed or certain things have been completed, then probably doing business processes is better. If you wanted to do kind of more custom stuff, especially if you want to add custom coding and things, then the business processes would be the one to do. Automation is very simple, I think, to set up. So if you're just doing things like notifications and sending out emails, maybe creating tasks and things, then automation will be fine. If I go into one we've got created already, which is deal stage progress, we've called it here. So we actually have, so the question was, I want to send an email when the deal is at a particular stage. Also, is it possible to send SMS? So yes, so this business process uses a condition at the top here that looks at the stage of a deal. Condition is, I think, in constructors. So this is the action block we're using here. You simply drag in these individual action blocks into the process. And let me just put that back in there again. You can see that it creates two options here, two conditions. If you want to add an additional one, you can do that, and you can add, in theory, any number of conditions in here. So should any of these conditions be met, the process will follow down that particular route. So in this example, we have conditions which look at the deal stage. Let's go back into a deal again, and we're looking at this stage at the top here, stages across the top. I click into one of these, you can see that I've named this condition quote stage, and we've used the element field here, which allows us to select a field that exists within the deal. We're using the stage field that exists within the deal. You can use other fields. If I wanted to use a condition whereby if a certain person was responsible for this deal, it would perform an action, I could do that, by selecting that. And what we're looking for here as this condition is if this stage equals the stage quotation. So similar thing exists within these two other branches of this process. And then should one of these, so let's just first before we go any further, let's just check in the template parameters. So we need to check whether this process is running manually or whether it's running automatically. I think this process should run automatically. So it should always be checking whenever something has either been changed within the system or when a deal has been created from new. So if I tick this, it would check every time a field is changed within the system, every time something within the deal is changed or updated. Tick this as well. This would run the process every time a new deal is created. So you can have both of those, either of those, or you could have them both unticked and you'd have to run this process manually. I think we've had it unticked in this demo site in order for it not to continually run. But let's tick when changed, and let's save that. So this means that whenever anything changes within this deal, it'll run this process. Should one of these conditions be met, let's see, on the first one is quote stage, should this condition be met, this process will wait 7 days and then book in a phone call. Your question was about sending out an email. So if we go into interactive, then we can pull in an email. We can pull in an email into this process here. So this will trigger an email based on this stage. We can take these two out. I can open up the email settings. I can choose the sender, the subject, the text of the email. We can choose to have an HTML email or a plain text email. We have a text message. We don't have text message in here, do we?
Yes, I think we do. I think we go to immediate.
Okay, so we've got SMS down here. If you want to add these rather than if you're dragging these up from the bottom of the page, it's quite difficult all the way up to the top. The way to do this is to right click. Is to click, left click, and find from your list here SMS. So the same principle applies. Go into the settings and add the content of the SMS. To send email, it's built into Bitrix. That will happen automatically. To send SMS, you need to subscribe to an SMS provider. So there are some built-in apps that will allow you to do that. You pay per message when you're sending texts. That's it. We'll just quickly show you the automation. So we're inside the deal now. We have a tab called automation. So we are able to do this probably actually in a slightly simpler way. So using automation. So if we go into configure at the top here, these are the rules that are going to happen when the lead or the deal hits these stages. I can then choose from my list to send a email, and then as well as that we can choose to send out an SMS as well. So okay, we're not enabled, so we can no, we're not configured with Twilio, but we can configure this, then we can add SMS into this. So in this case, that's probably a simpler way of doing it. This will send the message. When this is, if I save that now, when this is actually actioned, this will turn yellow as these have done, so you can see individually on deal by deal which actions have been performed for that particular item.
We had a question come through in the week, and it was basically a client of ours was using the cloud package, and they wanted to know if they could upgrade to the self-hosted package, and yes, the answer is yes. It's pretty straightforward. We can migrate everything from a cloud package, whether you're on I think it's from the free straight through to the professional. We can migrate everything that's on there into the self-hosted and configure the self-hosted however you want it. So the answer is yes, you can migrate from the cloud.
Yeah, I think a couple of things you need to consider if you're moving from cloud to self-hosted. Everything will migrate across, all your data, documents, all your users and everything will migrate across. You will have been using a domain, probably something like yourcompany.bitrix24.com. If you reference that domain anywhere within the site or external to the site, those links won't work anymore when you go to your new self-hosted instance, because you'll have a custom domain. So with self-hosted, you point your own domain to the instance. So you normally have something like portal.yourcompany.com, that sort of thing. And so those old links, you'll not be able to redirect those old links, because obviously that's on a Bitrix domain. You have no control over that, so they won't go anywhere. Your cloud account will lapse after inactive. If it's inactive, if you don't pay for it, then it will be downgraded to a free account. If it's then inactive for 3 months, it will lapse, and so those links won't work. But it is a simple process to migrate across. Just need to consider that. Also, if you've got a lot of data, the process involves Bitrix backing up your data providing that to us, and us installing that on the new server. That process can be quite quick, but if there's quite a lot of data, that can take up to a couple of days, 2 or 3 days in some cases, to back up and restore. So just something to consider, that you'll potentially have some downtime in that process, but there's no cost involved to it. We'll upgrade. You just need to buy the new self-hosted license, and then we can upgrade you. We've got a question about, what does the extranet mean? Can extranet users see details in my CRM? Extranet users have access to certain areas of the system. They are, as a free user, under the terms of the license, they're not allowed to access certain areas, and they're certainly restricted from accessing certain areas under the process that authorises users. So every time a page is loaded, the user's credentials are checked. So firstly, they won't see navigation to areas they're not allowed access to, but if they were to try and access a page that was restricted, they would not be authorised to access that. They have access to work groups, the full features inside work groups. Let's go into a work group. In fact, let's go into a different one. They have access to all the features inside a work group. So that is communication tools on the stream, tasks, calendars, drive, chat tool, so they can chat to not anyone in the system, but anyone that they share a work group with, discussion boards, and these are the features of a work group, and that's it. There's a lot of functionality they can get access to, so they can access all tasks. You can share documents with them, you can share calendar events with them, and you can communicate with them as well. They don't have access to any CRM data at all, so they don't have access to any HR data as well. They only have access essentially to the work group. If you're on a self-hosted version, then I'm just clicking into our extranet site here, then they do have access to some other features. You can give them access to things like support, help desk. You can give them access to eStore, which is a feature of the self-hosted. And in addition to that, you can create custom pages on self-hosted, so you give them access to kind of static or video content or something on a custom page. So you can provide them with your own custom access or access to these tools, but as standard, they wouldn't be able to see any other links. If they were to get hold of the URL for your CRM, then they would get a blocked message when they try and click on that page. So they certainly can't see any of your internal data. You obviously need to be careful, I think, when you're accessing, when you're inviting users in, that you don't invite them in with the wrong sort of permissions. So invite them in as an extranet user, invite them into the right groups, of course.
Got a question just with regards to the ability to connect accounting packages to Bitrix. The question that we actually got was with reference to Sage, which is, I'm not sure if it's, I know it's definitely UK based as well. I'm not 100% sure if it's in the US as well. But there are some standard integrations with account packages in Bitrix. If you can click into applications on the left hand side, and this is both for the cloud version as well as the on-premise version as well. Bitrix actually did release Zero integration recently. I know they do have QuickBooks. I think that will QuickBooks integration, if you're aware of that one, and there are. I think there might be a couple more in here. You'll have to search the application store for whichever one that you require. And if you've got the self-hosted package, there is the additional capability of integrating with accounts packages. So with regards to the question that was asked with Sage, then it could be possible. We would just need to check the documentation on the financial packages API, and we can then connect via that API with the on-premise version of Bitrix, because it does have a full API that we can connect to using the CRM, and we can basically integrate with pretty much anything, as long as the piece of software that we're connecting with has an available API.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Is there a limit to the amount of or number of workflows I can create? So it depends. I don't think there is a limit, but probably on some of the free packages there might be some restrictions in some areas. I think the best thing to do is go to Bitrix24.com. And you should be able to check, if we check in pricing, and we can check the difference between each of the packages here, feature by feature. So, but it depends which areas you're talking about in terms of workflows. See if we can find document management CRM. So there will be some custom automation rules. So there seems to be restrictions on that unless you're on a professional here. Yeah, I think you should look through there, find feature by feature. But in terms of workflows, then they exist in a number of different areas. They exist in the what's called workflows in activity stream for kind of administration and approvals and HR workflows. So these will be, if we go to the activity stream, these will be, click into more workflows, these will be things like leave approval and purchase requests and things like that. So processes around administration and HR really. And don't think there's a restriction on this, but I'm not too sure. So check on Bitrix24 website. Don't think there's a restriction on the number you can create. There are some standard workflows pre-built, and you can add more to it. So I would say there's no restriction as far as I know. Of course, we looked at a workflow in the CRM, which would be classed as automation or business processes. So they're slightly different if you're referring to them. I think again you'd have to check on the Bitrix website whether they're available on all the packages. So I won't go through all this now, but there's quite a lot of different. It's quite different. Quite a lot of different availability of these different features depending on which package you choose. So sales automation. Here we go. So sales automation is available for within the CRM on all packages. So that includes this one here, which is the free package. This is the free package. So you have sales automation on any in terms of workflows within the activity stream for HR. Not too sure. I'd check that list.
I'm just reading this part here. The use of business tools in the free plan is limited to 12 users, so it's just be aware of that. It was just marked with an asterisk there.
How can I connect Instagram? Open channel. I think Instagram is a standard open channel. Let's have a look. So you should have a link for open channels in your menu, and might be something that actually you want to hide in your hidden items, but we've got it available here. And so we've got something here which gives us a little bit of an overview on activity. You can get into a lot of detail about what sort of where your inquiries are coming from over here. If you want to create Instagram, go over here. then you can connect your Instagram here. Let's just click in there. Okay, so you just need to log into your Instagram account. I don't think we have an Instagram account we can log into, but that would, I think that should connect it without having to get sort of like keys and things like that. So it's fairly straightforward. To show how Instagram works, I'm guessing it works the same way as Facebook in that there's a messenger. If anyone's chatting, if anyone messages you, then that will come in, displaying the Bitrix messenger. Okay, as we can see there. So it will, if anyone comments, it will pop up as a message in your messenger here, or it will certainly receive a notification, which will allow you to open up the message in here. So it would mean that you can respond to those comments almost immediately. You're able to create a queue of users that can pick those messages up. So you don't need to be logged into Instagram. Can reply directly from Bitrix.
Yeah, and I think further to that, with the interaction between yourself and the users on Instagram, is that you can actually convert those people who you are communicating with to leads within the CRM. So you can store them as leads. The history of the chat will remain in the CRM lead, so you'll be able to see what you've been speaking about, and then you can convert that to a contact or a deal if you wanted to, and that works the same as while we're in open channels here. That also works the same for Facebook, and if somebody's going to chat with you via the messenger on Facebook, then again you have the option to, it'll come through on your, as Damien mentioned, it'll come through as a chat, and then you have the option to convert that to a lead if you wanted to. So it is a really useful way of connecting Bitrix to your social networks.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't allow you to post onto social networks, does it? It's a way to be able to reply to comments, but you can't create social media posts. It's not a platform to manage social media activity in that sense. Can I customize my site so that customers see different things and pages to my internal users? So that customers, you can. I mean, I think you go back to extranet users again. So I think extranet users will see different content to you. They'll see the work group that you see. Can you customize it? Well, they'll see a limited number of links on the left-hand side. They're not going to see all these standard menus. If we go into our extranet here, so they see a few less items here. In fact, this is a self-hosted version, and we've created some custom pages that link to support and e-store and cases and things, and even e-learning. So they actually see less than this. They'll see their work group. They'll see that's pretty much it really on the left-hand side in terms of access to their work group. Can you customize it? You can't customize the standard cloud version, but in this case, we're on a self-hosted. We added some custom banners to the right-hand side. So if you want to promote some of your services to these people, then you can do that on a self-hosted version. But by default they see different things anyway, but if you want to customize it, you'd need a self-hosted version, allow you to customize the login page and also some of the styling and things inside here if you want to do that. You can change the themes, of course. So that would be, I guess extranet users can do that as well. I don't actually think you can force a default theme on a user, so they're going to see or there is a default theme they're going to see. I don't think you could set or change that, but we could look into that.
I think you can now. I think with your themes you do have the option you can set as default.
Oh, right, okay.
So you can set as default to force that on everybody if you wanted to.
So in terms of customizing it a little bit then on the cloud, then you could do that. You can upload your own you can upload your custom theme down here, so I can put in a background image if you want to do that. So that might be kind of worth doing, I think, if you're on the cloud and you're inviting people in, having some of your own kind of branding in there.
So we had a question come in just with regards to the is it possible to email use email marketing within Bitrix. And Bitrix have introduced an email marketing tool on Bitrix. So you can see here we have CRM marketing. So I've jumped into the cloud at the moment. It's actually coming, I do believe, quite soon to the self-hosted. Self-hosted tends to be maybe a month behind the cloud version. But what you can do, as you can see here, it's pretty much like if you've ever used MailChimp or something like that. You can actually create campaigns out of Bitrix. So we can see here that we have a range. We have email, SMS, we can use the messengers, and we can also use the telephony within Bitrix as well. So you can build up your campaigns, and the good thing about it is you can use the data that is in your CRM. So you can see segments here at the top, and what we can do, if we can create a new segment. So this is basically you growing your marketing list and target them to whatever you want to target. So say for example we wanted to target a client type, so we want all contacts that maybe have a contact type of clients, for example. So we could search for that, and you can see here we don't have that much data in our demo site, but you can see we've pulled one email, and we could call this client mailing list. And the good thing with that is that now we can then save that, and then that one you can see here we have a client mailing list. It's got one email, one phone, and one contact. So we can use that email address when we create a new campaign. So we could create a new campaign. Let's create an email campaign. It comes with quite a lot of preset templates as well, so you don't need to code anything. You can just generally choose an option here. So we have motivate your client to seal the deal, and then you can see on the right hand side here that we can drag and drop images in here. So it's very easy to use, it's very easy to navigate. We can edit those images and drop our own in and change the content. And also with this, you can create dynamic content. So say for example we have here hash name hash, that will bring in the contact's name that's in your segment. So we've just created a client mailing list. So if I click on my segments here, this is the one I've just created. I can send it to, you can see how many it's going to be sent to. It's going to be sent to the one, but out of that one it will put their name in, and then obviously you've got all the additional information on here, and it has all the things such as unsubscribe, so you can stop if the user does unsubscribe, it will stop mailing them in that particular segment. And then we have quite a range of different other features on here. So it is a really powerful tool. Once it's been sent and once it's been scheduled, then we do have a reporting tool, so we can see in the statistics. Obviously, this has only got one user in, but you can see who's opened it, how many click-throughs. You can see where users have clicked. So it does have quite an extensive range of features to track the campaigns that you've set out. And like I say, it is in beta version at the minute, so there are going to be updates and changes to this as we progress through to launching it to live. But as I say, it is a very useful tool, especially with the integration with the CRM and the users.
I think when you look at things like this, where you can pull in information from your company records, then it takes it to another level. If you're using something like MailChimp, you can pull in their name, but I'm guessing this allows you to pull in any fields that you have in your system. So if you wanted to pull in information about recent quotes or something like that, I guess you could pull that information through to these emails to make them very tailored to the particular customer. That's kind of key, I guess, to getting people's attention. Tailoring these, maybe you could pull in product information that they've requested or expressed an interest in. So I think this is, when you compare it to MailChimp or other providers, there's some extra functionality there. It's all built into your Bitrix system. So, and also, very importantly, MailChimp will charge you $100, $200 a month. This is included in your subscription.
Yeah, I think with the actual settings, I do think you do have a limit if you're on some of the the lesser paid packages, and then it increases as you go into the professional and so on. So.
Okay, so you can increase the limit here, can you? So, okay. So if we click an upgrade amount to see what sort of package we need to be on. I don't know if we've got any information on this page. Lots and lots of features. General leads. CRM automation, no. The list goes on and on. Sites, we don't get many questions about sites, do we? But
No.
We'll have a look at sites, I think. Okay, I can't find it on that page. Maybe because it's in beta, it's not part of the main product list yet. But yeah, you need to choose the right package. If you need to look at the size of your mail your database and choose the right package to suit that. But I think it's I know that Sites is coming to the self-hosted version in beginning of June, so I hope that all marketing automation will be coming at a similar time. So, but available now in beta on the self-hosted on the cloud version. We've got a question about training. Somebody saying that if they take out a cloud version, can they request training from a partner or us? Partners. So Bitrix is really a self-service product. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about how to set the system up. It's very intuitive. So particularly on the cloud, you're not going to need too much training. If you want to do things like create business processes, and you might want some training on that. I mean, we certainly will want some training to get you started. Certainly a partner will provide that sort of training for you. Whether you're on a cloud or a self-hosted version, they can do a training. We can do training from just 1 hour online. If you want it on site, we can do that. That potentially involves some travel cost, but we can do it online from just an hour. And if you buy a license from us, we'll normally include some free of charge training.
I've just got a question about the documents on Bitrix. Can I edit them online? So with Bitrix, you do have, if we go back into our intranet here, so there's a couple of different options of how you can edit documents within Bitrix. If we go to our drive, and let's just go to our company drive here. So this is where the main document resource is within Bitrix. And there are basically just a couple of different ways to working with documents. So you can, if you want to edit your documents locally, if you've got the desktop application open, you click on the document to edit it, it will open up the relevant piece of software. So if it's a Word document, it will open up something like Microsoft Word. And then once you've saved it, it will sync back to Bitrix. And then alternatively, the other option is in the cloud. So you can integrate your Google account with Bitrix, and that will allow you to open up these documents in Google Docs, and edit the documents via Google Docs. And then once it's closed, it will update and so on and so forth. So there are those two options, and then the third option is obviously if you don't want that to happen at all, you can download, edit the document, and then you would have to re-upload it into Bitrix.
Okay, on that training question, is there a price for training? Does the price for training change depending on the number of people being trained? It doesn't make any difference to us how many people you have on your side. And we charge per hour, and that's it. So we would generally recommend though that we train the admins and the managers of your business, and you're able to train the other users, but it's your choice really, as is the subject of the training, of course. If you tell us what you need training on, and who's going to be involved in the training, then we can arrange a custom training package for you. I think if you're, for instance, if you're taking on a self-hosted, we have self-hosted package. We have some standard training packs that we kind of advise. So there's one around admin, which covers all the key areas that for administrators, I think, kind of managing users, creating and editing pages, permissions, how you can show different content pages to different people, that sort of thing. So there's some standard packages, but which we can share with you, and if you like those, you can do those. If you want to change them, we can change them, I guess, to suit you. Or if you just want training on, if you want to create a business process and you want to just train on how to do that, you send that over to us. We can kind of create that during the training session for you. That will allow you to have the process built the way you want it, and also allow you to understand how it was built and be able to maintain it in the future.
So we had another question just with regards to the self-hosted packages and the ability to back up the system. So if you're on the cloud, just Bitrix will handle your obviously handle the hosting of Bitrix and handle the backups and that side of things. So everything's secure. It's hosted in your most local data center. So if you're in the UK, it'll be hosted the closest ones to the UK. But your self-hosted one, I mean, it all depends on who hosts it. So you can host it as the user. So if you've got a server in-house, you can host Bitrix, and then it will be up to you to set up your backup plan. We can obviously recommend a particular backup strategy. If a partner hosts it, then they will have a backup strategy. So, for example, for ours, if we were to host an on-premise version, then it would mean that we have a rolling 5-day backup policy, and then we have also a historic 2-week backup as well. So, once a new day approaches, the old one drops off, and then the new one gets backed up onto the server. So the self-hosted is backed up however you want it to. It's best to speak to a partner, and they will be able to instruct you on what they feel is best. And like I say, if you're on the cloud, then everything is backed up for you anyway.
Okay, we had a question in earlier, which I'll go through now. We've not got many other questions coming through about if Bitrix is able to work with integrate with any telephone system. So this is quite a big subject area, really. Bitrix can integrate with a virtual phone or a physical phone system for you, but there are a number of things to consider. Let's find our telephony page. So firstly, you can rent a number from Bitrix. So you can use Bitrix as your telephone provider. You don't need to use any other hardware or software. You can rent a number from Bitrix. You can rent a local number in your area. Pay about $6 a month for it. Pay very small amount per minute for the calls, and that's it. It's very straightforward. You can connect to your local phone system, and there's different ways of doing that. You can connect it through the built-in SIP connector. This is I think about $49 a month, and that's one option you've got. Now, depending on your requirements, that might not be suitable for you. You need to test that and decide whether that's a suitable requirement for you, depending on the volume and things that might not be suitable for you. Can connect. Your other options are to connect using one of the standard pre-built apps, which allow you to connect to your phone system. So check that you've got a system that's compatible with one of these apps. We recommend as a phone system free PBX, which is tested in Bitrix and works very well. So actually, if you're not fixed with one particular phone system, you're choosing one, or it's possible to switch, then we'd recommend FreePBX as a phone system, and we can connect you to using that particular phone system. We can connect you for fairly low cost. If you're using another system and there's not an app available for it, then you can use, we can create a custom integration through the telephony API. This can involve a considerable amount of work, so may cost maybe in excess of $10,000 to be, so that you're aware. So I think the first thing to do is consider Bitrix phone. Consider using Bitrix built-in telephony without external hardware. Secondly, consider using something like FreePBX, which is tested and works very well, is simple to connect. Thirdly, if you want to use one of these apps, it should work okay for you. But if your phone system isn't currently tested with Bitrix, then we can build that from scratch, but that's going to cost a considerable amount of money. That might be the right route for you, depending on the sort of size of your business, I guess, but could be looking at a reasonable, fairly large amount of money. But of course, that's something we can do for you, or the partners can do for you. So get in touch, whatever phone system you use, get in touch, and we can talk through the different options for you. And I think that's available on. I think the apps are available on the cloud. So you can, on the cloud or the self-hosted, you can rent a number from Bitrix. You can connect using the SIP connector, or you can connect using one of the apps. If those options are not suitable for you and you're using a phone system that you want to connect and there isn't a standard app, then you would need an API integration, and that's not available on the cloud. You need a self-hosted version in order to do that. Okay. A question about how to configure automation workflow in leads process. I can show you that quickly. So if we go into the CRM and into leads, then if we click into in fact, there's two ways in. I can click into a lead, and I can go into the automation page within the lead, and I can see that we have some automation set up for this lead. If I'm an administrator, I've got the option to configure how this automation is working inside here. So I open that up. That allows me to see, just so you know how this works. Leads have different stages here. These rules down here will be triggered when each stage is updated. And so in this case, we're changing responsible person here. We are changing the status here. We're sending out an email here. You can add additional rules or actions. There's a lot. You can send emails. I can send notifications. We can do things like send text messages, start meetings, or schedule meetings. We can communicate using SMS and email, or even via an open channel. Can actually target adverts on things like Facebook and Google AdWords, so that would use the email address that you have recorded for this particular prospect, email address or telephone number, and if they're using the same email address, telephone number in one of these platforms, then we'll be able to target an advert just at that particular person. Of course, that requires some setup in Facebook and on Google itself, but it's possible to actually automate to that extent when, say, a lead becomes, say, assigned or something. When a lead's getting progressed on, you might want to trigger that kind of advertisement activity on external platforms. It's not going to cost you anything on those platforms unless the advert is successfully displayed to that particular user, so it's possibly worth considering. So you can create your rules or actions down here. You can also do within automation, which is slightly different to the business process we looked at earlier. You can create triggers as well. So instead of these stages being updated manually by a user of the system, you can add a trigger which will update the stages of the system. So I can use an incoming email as a trigger. So should an email come in which matches from an email address which matches the email recorded in this lead, that will trigger an update to the stage of this lead. Same thing for an incoming call. Bitrix has forms built in, so web forms, so you can create forms, and if you're using an email address field, for example, in that form, and someone populates the form with the email address that matches this lead, then that can trigger this. We can use webhooks, so although the cloud version doesn't have a full API available in the way that the self-hosted does, you can use webhooks if you have some development experience to allow you to retrieve information or even post information into an external system. And we can use things like open channels as well, so messages on things like Facebook can trigger change to the status of this lead. So that's how you do it in now. You just go out of the lead and into settings and into automation. So we can go, as an administrator again, I can go into my lead automation through here. So this is where I went in earlier, business processes. Click in there so you can see we can create business processes on leads and deals, but in addition to that, which you can't do automation on, is companies and contacts. So but if you want to create your lead automation, we can go into here exactly the same as we saw before. This is exactly the same process as we saw before, and the stages are the same, just a different way of accessing that particular process. So it's should be fairly straightforward to say, like within the automation, it's probably simpler than on the business processes side. Okay, let's see if we've got any questions. We don't have many questions coming in now. A follow-up question from earlier: Will my extranet users be given a login and password? I think that certainly they certainly will. They will be given the URL of your instance. In fact, they're probably just given the standard Bitrix on the cloud, probably just given the generic Bitrix URL, which will redirect them. I'm too sure, but they'll be certainly given a username, which I think is their email address, and a randomly created password.
I think when you invite the user in, I think that they'll receive an email with a link, and the link will take them to the registration form, and then they'll be able to set up their own email, username and password. So, and if you're on the self-hosted, then you can also add it in the control panel straight away.
So let's have a quick look at that. So in the self-hosted, we have a process here, which is make live user. So this process we're able. So this is where you access the business process of these individual modules. If I want to run a business process manually, I could trigger a process that converts this particular contact, Mark Moon, into from a CRM entity into an actual user, an extranet user of the system. And in this case, it will send them a URL of your site, a username and a password, and it generates all that for you. This is a custom process, though. It's not standard in a self-hosted. If you wanted this sort of process, get in touch with us and we can provide it for you. But it is very useful in that if you use a process like this, rather than kind of inviting them in, then it's one click. And the job's done. They'll get all the details and they'll be able to access. So it's one click for the user, but also you can't give them the wrong kind of permissions. The way they're set up in the system is coded in, hard coded in through the process, so they're not going to be able to change. They're not going to be able to access anything that they shouldn't kind of be accessing. So that is
so I think, like, We've not got any questions coming in, so I think if we just put our contact details up on the screen, I think if you want any further help with anything to do with Bitrix, or if you need a demonstration, then we can offer that service for you. Just get in touch with the contact details on the screen there. We'll leave those up for a couple of minutes. But we're here every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and we can happily answer any questions throughout the full hour session. If you do have any in the week that you want to ask, as I said at the beginning, you can email us at live@intraface.com. You can send us a tweet at intraface, and we can store them and we can answer them next Thursday. So you don't have to obviously have to register for this. You can just pop on, pop off when you wish, and it is also recorded as well. So if you send us a question throughout the week and you can't make it next Thursday, then you can always see it on our YouTube channel at a later date as well. So
yeah, go to Intraface, intreface.com/. If you go to youtube.com/intraface, you can access these and earlier recordings, or if you go to youtube.com/Bitrix24, you can access quite a lot of help videos, or lots of help videos on there.
Yeah, and every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we also have a webinar which solely focuses on certain areas of Bitrix. So we have webinars on the CRM, we have webinars on business processes, the HR tools and project management, and also focusing on the self-hosted package of Bitrix as well. So check a look at our website, intraface.com/webinars, and you can register for free on there, and we'll be able to speak with you on a Monday as well.
Okay, thanks. See you next time.
Thank you.